Sit down, Sullivan. You're too slow. You're done.
Yes, sir.
The whole gym heard it, but one man in row 3 heard enough.
I don't care who's watching. He doesn't belong on this court.
Actually, Coach, he signed with Duke 3 weeks ago.
What?
Coach Brennan's face went the color of a stop sign. And in row 3, a grandmother closed her eyes and smiled. Denise Sullivan closed her eyes on that bleacher. Her fingers tightened around the worn, brown, leather-bound book in her lap, the one she carried everywhere, the one with the cracked spine and the soft edges from decades of holding. She'd seen this before. Different gyms, different men with whistles, same poison. But let's rewind 30 seconds, because you need to hear exactly what came out of Coach Ray Brennan's mouth. The Ridgemont gym was packed, maybe 200 people in those wooden bleachers, parents and students, and a handful of younger players from the JV squad sitting cross-legged along the baseline. The scoreboard read 47-38, Ridgemont up, third quarter winding down. And Jaylen Sullivan, 6'3", lean, that maroon and gold number 5 jersey hanging clean off his long frame, had just delivered his 11th assist of the night, a no-look dish from the elbow that split 2 defenders and found the center under the basket for an easy finish, the kind of pass that makes college scouts lean forward. One scout in particular had leaned forward, but Brennan didn't see a pass. Brennan saw disobedience. He slammed his clipboard against the scorer's table so hard the volunteer flinched. The sound cracked through the gym like a gunshot, and everything just stopped. The ref held the ball. The crowd noise drained out like someone pulled a plug. "Sit down." Brennan's face was flushed, those broken capillaries on his left cheek going from pink to dark red. He pointed, not toward the bench, but at Jaylen specifically, jabbing his thick finger through the air like he was trying to puncture something. "You don't run my plays. You sit down and you watch how it's supposed to look." Jaylen stood at half court, mouthguard dangling from his teeth, hands still at his sides, the way they always were. Patient, deliberate. That thin gold chain tucked inside his jersey collar caught the overhead lights for just a second. He didn't argue. He didn't flinch. He walked to the bench and sat down. The assistant coach, a younger guy, maybe late 20s, stared at the floor like it owed him money. Parents in the first 3 rows shifted in their seats, doing that thing where they look at each other without actually turning their heads. Nobody said a word. And Brennan? Brennan puffed out his chest, tugged the silver whistle on that maroon lanyard, and turned back to the game like he'd just restored order to the universe. Except somebody was watching. Top row. Navy blue polo with a small embroidered crest on the chest, dark gray slacks, clean white leather sneakers that had no business being that clean in a high school gymnasium, a manila folder tucked under his left arm, and clipped to his belt loop, a lanyard. Not maroon, not school-issued. This one was different. This man was different. He hadn't moved a muscle the entire game, sat there with his arms resting on his knees, dark brown eyes tracking the court with the calm of someone who'd seen 10,000 games and only cared about a handful. The small mole just below his left eye caught shadow as he tilted his head, watching Brennan's theatrics with no expression at all. Then he stood up. He started walking down the bleacher steps, slow, measured, each footfall deliberate. Hard cut, screen goes black. 4 months earlier. The duplex sat off Route 9 in Decatur County, Georgia, cinder block and faded siding, a chain-link fence around a yard that was more red clay than grass. 2 bedrooms, 1 bathroom with a shower curtain that didn't quite reach the tub floor, a kitchen where the linoleum curled at the edges and the overhead light buzzed if you didn't tap it twice, grits on the stove. Not the instant kind, the real ones, the kind that take 40 minutes because Denise Sullivan didn't believe in shortcuts. She stood at that counter in her pressed lavender cotton blouse, buttoned all the way to the collar, silver gray hair pulled back in that low, neat bun, thin gold wire rim reading glasses perched on her nose. 5'2", soft-bodied, straight-backed, hands that had scooped mashed potatoes onto cafeteria trays at Decatur County Middle School for 19 years. 1 pair of basketball shoes sat by the front door. White Nike mid-tops, clearance rack, $42. The left toe was already scuffed from pivot drills on asphalt because Jaylen practiced outside more than he practiced inside. Couldn't always get gym time when you weren't the coach's favorite. On the hallway wall, a framed letter. Brianna Sullivan's acceptance to the nursing program at Albany State. The paper had yellowed behind the glass. Brianna never made it to orientation. Lupus took her at 39, quiet and cruel, the way Lupus does. In the kitchen drawer, a pen she used to write grocery lists. In the bedroom at the end of the hall, a made bed with a quilt folded at the foot, untouched. The door stayed open. Denise never closed it. Jaylen was raised by his grandmother alone. No safety net, no booster club daddy, no AAU circuit funded by some shoe company. Just Denise's cafeteria paycheck, a public court with chain nets, and a kid who understood that everything he had was borrowed from someone else's sacrifice. And here's what made Jaylen Sullivan special. Not explosive, not flashy, not the kind of player who shows up on highlight reels with a soundtrack. He was deliberate, patient, nothing wasted. He read defenders the way his grandmother read her leather-bound book, carefully, completely, finding meaning in the spaces between. He'd wait a half-beat longer than any other point guard, let the defense commit, then slide through the gap like water finding a crack. 14 points, 11 assists, 6 rebounds, every single night. That style is genius. Any coach worth a damn knows it. But a certain kind of coach, the insecure kind, the loud kind, the kind who needs the game to look the way he wishes he still played it, that kind of coach looks at Jaylen Sullivan and sees a threat. Tryouts, August heat. Brennan stood at center court with his arms crossed, chest forward, chin up, that silver whistle resting against his maroon Ridgemont polo. He watched Jaylen run drills with the expression of a man being forced to eat something he didn't order. The athletic director, a woman named Terry Hodge, who actually understood basketball, overruled him. The stats were undeniable. Jaylen starts. Brennan said nothing, just tightened his jaw and looked away. That's where it started. That's where the resentment took root. 4 months later, Jaylen walked back into the duplex after another practice where Brennan had yanked him early. He set his bag by the door. Denise looked up from the kitchen table, the worn, brown, leather-bound book open in front of her, her reading glasses catching the buzzing overhead light. She didn't ask. She already knew. The empty chair across from her said everything neither of them would. The empty chair sat there like a verdict. Denise didn't need to ask because she'd watched this pattern for 2 years now, and the pattern had a name. Ray Brennan. Let's talk about Ray Brennan. Let's talk about the man behind the whistle. Because everybody in Ridgemont thinks they know him. The guy who bleeds maroon and gold, the lifer. 19 years pacing that sideline, silver whistle on a maroon lanyard bouncing against his chest, pale blue eyes scanning the court like he's some kind of genius reading the game 3 possessions ahead, arms crossed, chin up, chest puffed out like a rooster who owns the barn. He doesn't own a damn thing. Here's what Ray Brennan actually is. A former Division III guard out of some small college in western Pennsylvania that you've never heard of because nobody has. Averaged 11 points a game his junior year, which was his peak, his absolute ceiling. Tore his ACL at 22 during a meaningless conference tournament game in front of maybe 200 people. And that was it. Career over. Dream dead. The knee healed eventually, but the bitterness never did. And that bitterness followed him like a shadow all the way down to rural Georgia, where he took an assistant coaching job at Ridgemont because nobody else wanted it, and then slid into the head coaching chair 6 years later because the old coach retired and Brennan was just there. That's his origin story. He didn't earn the job. He outlasted everyone who wanted it. 19 years, 0 state titles, 0. And every single year it's somebody else's fault. The refs, the athletic director, the budget, the talent pool. Never him. Never the guy with the receding, sandy gray hairline and the broken capillaries across his left cheek from too many post-game beers, standing there in his tucked-in maroon polo and khaki coaching pants, telling everyone within earshot exactly what's wrong with his players. Which brings us back to Jaylen. See, Brennan worships one thing: speed, flash, the crossover that makes the crowd gasp, the fast break that ends in a poster dunk. He worships those things because those are the things he lost when his knee gave out. He doesn't understand patience. He doesn't understand vision. And when a 6'3" kid with deep brown eyes and a lean, long-armed build plays the game at a different tempo, a tempo that's actually smarter, Brennan doesn't see brilliance. He sees everything he hates about himself reflected back. So he punishes it. Jaylen gets the fewest minutes of any starter on the roster. Think about that. A starter, getting fewer minutes than guys coming off the bench. Brennan yanks him at the first mistake. Not the second, the first. A single turnover and that whistle shrieks, and Brennan's thick arm is waving him to the bench like he's swatting a fly. Twice, at parent booster events, Brennan told other parents, within earshot of Jaylen, that the kid plays like he's sleepwalking. Sleepwalking. A black player with elite court vision, a kid who sees passing lanes before they exist, and the word this man chooses is sleepwalking. Too slow, not explosive enough, doesn't have that gear. Let's be real about what those words mean when a coach like Brennan applies them to a player like Jaylen. Too slow isn't about foot speed. It's about who Brennan thinks belongs in the spotlight and who doesn't. It's coded. It's deliberate. And it's been going on for longer than just Jaylen. Because there's a pattern here. A freshman named DeAndre Williams, black kid, talented, got told during his first varsity tryout that he didn't have the DNA for varsity. DNA. Brennan said that word out loud in a gymnasium full of people and nobody blinked. Another black player, a junior, got benched for an entire district game after one bad defensive rotation, while white players made the same mistakes and stayed in. During practices, Brennan's corrections for black players came louder, sharper, more personal. For everyone else, it was coaching. For them, it was humiliation. This wasn't about Jaylen. Jaylen was just the latest. But Jaylen had something the others didn't. He had weekends. Every other Saturday from October through March, Jaylen loaded into a teammate's car and drove 3 hours north to Atlanta for AAU tournaments. And stepping into those gyms was like walking into a different universe. The courts were loud, the coaches were passionate, and every single one of them saw exactly what Brennan refused to see. They saw a kid who could thread a bounce pass through triple coverage without looking, a kid whose court vision operated on a frequency most high school players couldn't even hear. They celebrated it. They built plays around it. They told him out loud that he was special. His AAU coach, a man named Gerald Tate, who'd played 2 years overseas and knew real talent when it walked through the door, pulled Jaylen aside after a tournament in Decatur and said, "Son, you're a college player right now. You just don't know it yet." And Gerald did something about it. Quietly, without telling Jaylen. He took the best clips from 3 tournaments, spliced them together into a 4-minute highlight reel, grainy footage shot on a handheld camera from the bleachers, nothing polished, nothing produced, just raw basketball, and uploaded it to a national recruiting database where college scouts go hunting for diamonds. Jaylen didn't know. Denise didn't know. Meanwhile, Denise kept showing up, every single game, same seat, 3rd row behind the Ridgemont bench, straight-backed and still, hands folded, that worn brown leather-bound book resting in her lap the way it always did, silver-gray hair pulled back in her low, neat bun, thin gold wire-rim reading glasses catching the gymnasium light. She watched her grandson get yanked after 4 minutes. She watched Brennan's pale blue eyes skip right past Jaylen on the bench like he was furniture. She watched, and she said nothing. Not to Brennan, not to the athletic director, not to anyone. After that game, in the quiet of the duplex kitchen, she told Jaylen the only thing she ever told him about it. "You play your game. God and the tape don't lie." 7 words, steady as bedrock. Jaylen heard them, and somewhere on a server, a grainy highlight reel uploaded to a recruiting database by his AAU coach sat waiting. 2 weeks it sat there, unclicked, unseen. Then someone in Durham, North Carolina clicked play. Marcus Elliott, assistant director of player personnel at Duke University, is sitting in his office in Durham, scrolling through a recruiting database, when a grainy highlight reel from a rural Georgia AAU team stops him cold. Now, let me tell you about Marcus Elliott. This man knows basketball the way a surgeon knows a scalpel. Warm brown skin, neat, low fade going just a touch gray at the temples, that sharp jaw always set like he's calculating something. Clean navy polo with the embroidered crest on the chest, dark gray slacks, the Duke lanyard with a credential badge clipped to his belt loop like it's part of his skeleton. A manila folder under his left arm at all times, always carrying somebody's future in that folder. Marcus played point guard at Duke himself back in the day. Wasn't the fastest, wasn't the flashiest, but he saw the floor like a chessboard, and that's exactly why the program brought him back to find the next generation. His whole job is watching footage, hundreds of hours a month. Most of it blurs together. Athletes who can jump, athletes who can shoot, athletes who move like they're performing for a camera. Marcus isn't looking for any of that. He's looking for the thing you can't teach, the thing that lives behind the eyes. He clicks play on a 60-second clip tagged with a rural Georgia AAU team name he's never heard of. The video quality is garbage, shot from the bleachers on somebody's phone, shaky, the gym lighting washing everything yellow. And Marcus almost scrolls past it. Almost. But then he sees the kid. Tall, 6'3", lean, long arms, maroon jersey. And the kid does something in the first 8 seconds that makes Marcus sit up straight in his chair. A crossover at the top of the key, nothing fancy, but instead of driving, the kid freezes, just holds, half a beat, maybe less. And in that half beat, 2 defenders commit. The kid threads a no-look pass to the weak side that arrives before the cutter even finishes his cut. The ball is waiting for him. Marcus rewinds, watches it again, then again. 3 times he watches that 60-second clip, and each time he catches something new. The spatial awareness, the way the kid controls the tempo of the entire possession without raising his voice, without waving his arms, without demanding a damn thing. He just moves, and the game reorganizes itself around him. The hesitation dribble at the 22-second mark, the way he reads the help defense a full second before it rotates, the patience. God, the patience. This kid plays like he's been waiting his whole life, and he's perfectly fine waiting a little longer. Marcus picks up his phone, puts it down, picks it up again. He pulls up the database entry. Jaylen Sullivan, Ridgemont High School, rural Georgia. No stars? No ranking. No offers listed. No offers. Marcus Elliott has been scouting for 11 years. He knows what a generational floor general looks like, and he's staring at one right now on a grainy phone video with 12 views. He drives 4 hours to Atlanta that same week, a weekend AAU tournament in a community rec center with folding chairs and a shot clock that sticks. Marcus walks in wearing his navy polo and his Duke lanyard, manila folder tucked under his left arm, and sits in the second row without telling a soul who he is. He watches Jaylen warm up, watches the way the kid moves, upright, deliberate, hands still at his sides between drills. That thin gold chain tucked inside the maroon and gold jersey collar, catching the fluorescent light for just a second when he turns his neck. The faint birthmark below his left ear. The freckles scattered across the bridge of his nose. The game starts. Marcus sees enough in one half. A behind-the-back pass in transition that splits 2 defenders and finds the trailer in stride. A pull-up mid-range jumper with a release so clean it barely touches the net. But it's not the highlights that sell Marcus. It's the possessions where nothing happens. The possessions where Jaylen dribbles the air out of the clock because his team is up 6 and the other squad is pressing. And instead of forcing something, he just holds, controls, breathes. The kid plays like a 40-year-old point guard in a 19-year-old body. Marcus is in the parking lot before halftime is over, phone pressed to his ear, calling Duke's head coach directly. His voice is calm because Marcus Elliott is always calm, but his words aren't. "I found one," he says. "Full ride. Don't let anyone else see this kid first." That sentence changes everything. The scholarship offer comes 3 weeks later. Duke University, Full athletic scholarship, 4 years. And here's where it gets real, because the compliance process for a Division I scholarship isn't just a handshake. It's paperwork. It's video calls with administrators. It's background checks and academic transcripts and eligibility verification. And Jaylen Sullivan doesn't have reliable internet at home, so he does the calls from the public library. Picture this: a plastic chair at a shared computer desk in the Ridgemont County Public Library. Jaylen sitting there in his maroon and gold jersey, that thin gold chain hidden beneath the collar, his back straight, his hands still. And next to him, pulled up in a wooden chair she brought from the reading room, Denise Sullivan. Petite, 5'2", silver gray hair in that low, neat bun, the thin, gold wire rim reading glasses perched on her nose, that worn, brown, leather-bound book resting in her lap because she never goes anywhere without it, her hands folded, her posture perfect. Looking at a library computer screen while Duke administrators in suits ask her grandson questions about his academic history and his character and his goals. Jaylen answers every question with the same patient economy he plays with. No flash, no performance, just truth. Denise doesn't say much. She doesn't have to. Her presence says it all. The signing happens on a Tuesday evening, Denise's kitchen table, the same table where Jaylen did his homework every night for 4 years. The same table where Denise set a plate for him when his mother couldn't. The national letter of intent sits on the surface, crisp and official, looking almost alien against the worn wood. And Denise opens the kitchen drawer and pulls out a pen. Not just any pen, Brianna's pen, the same one Jaylen's mother used to sign her nursing school acceptance letter years ago. Denise kept it. Of course she kept it. Jaylen picks up that pen. His hand doesn't shake. He signs his name on the line and sets the pen down gently, like it's made of glass. Denise cries, quietly, her hands pressed together over that worn, leather-bound book, tears sliding beneath her gold, wire-rim glasses. She doesn't make a sound. She just lets it come. Jaylen holds it together. Barely. He doesn't tell anyone at school. Denise asks him why over tea that same night, the signed letter still on the table between them. Because he'd find a way to ruin it, Grandma. Sit with that for a second. A 19-year-old who just earned a full scholarship to one of the greatest basketball programs in the country, and his first instinct isn't to celebrate. It's to hide. Because the man who is supposed to be his coach, the man who is supposed to champion him, has taught Jaylen something no coach should ever teach a player, that protecting your joy means keeping it far, far away from the people who should be celebrating it with you. Jaylen picks up the pen, his mother's pen, the same one Brianna used to sign her nursing school acceptance, and signs the national letter of intent on Denise's kitchen table. Denise cries. Jaylen doesn't tell anyone at school. 3 weeks pass. Jaylen carries the secret like a stone in his pocket, smooth, heavy, his. Every practice, every dismissive comment from Brennan, every yank from the lineup, he absorbs it knowing what Brennan doesn't. And that changes everything. See, there's a particular kind of power in knowing your future is already secured while someone is still trying to convince you that you don't have one. Jaylen walks into that gymnasium every afternoon at 3:15, laces up those white Nike mid-tops with the scuffed left toe, tucks the thin gold chain inside the collar of his maroon and gold number 5 jersey, and he runs every drill Brennan calls. Every single one. He doesn't argue, doesn't sulk, doesn't give Brennan the satisfaction of a furrowed brow or a muttered complaint. He just plays. And when Brennan pulls him, he sits. When Brennan ignores him, he waits. When Brennan talks past him like he's furniture, Jaylen keeps his hands still at his sides and his deep brown eyes level and patient. Because the letter of intent is signed. The full ride to Duke is real. And Ray Brennan doesn't know a damn thing about it. You ever hold a winning hand and just sit there? Not because you're scared to play it, but because the pot isn't big enough yet? That's Jaylen Sullivan for 21 straight days. A 19-year-old kid with more composure than most grown men will ever develop, walking into a building where a petty tyrant with a silver whistle and a receding hairline has decided he's nothing. and choosing every single day to let the man keep believing it. The victory is bigger than the moment. Jaylen understands that in his bones. But here's the thing about holding yourself differently when you know your worth. Other people notice. They can't name it, can't put their finger on it, but they feel the shift. And Brennan feels it. Something's changed in the kid. Brennan can see it in the way Jaylen stands during water breaks now. That lean 6'3" frame, upright and deliberate, not hunched the way he used to get after being benched. The way Jaylen looks at him, not with anger, not with resentment, but with something worse. Something that looks almost like calm, almost like patience, like Jaylen is waiting for something Brennan can't see coming. Brennan interprets it the only way a man like him can: defiance. He cuts Jaylen's minutes from 12 per game to 8, then to 6. He pulls the assistant coach aside after Thursday practice, that thick neck flushed ruddy pink above the maroon polo collar, pale blue eyes narrowed, arms crossed tight across his stocky chest. "That kid thinks he's better than this program," he says, broken capillaries flaring across his left cheek like a roadmap of every beer and every grudge. "Walks around here like he's got somewhere else to be, like we should be grateful he even shows up." The assistant coach says nothing. Smart man. Brennan keeps going. "Kids from his situation don't get to act like that. You earn attitude. You earn confidence. He hasn't earned a damn thing." Kids from his situation. Let that one sit in your chest for a second. A man who's supposed to mentor, supposed to develop, supposed to lead, and the best he can muster is contempt for where a kid comes from. That's Coach Ray Brennan. That's the whole man right there in 5 words. Meanwhile, the kitchen table in Denise Sullivan's house looks ordinary again. The letter of intent is tucked away somewhere safe. The surface is cleared, wiped clean, set with 2 mismatched plates. Grits on the stove, steam curling up toward the yellow overhead light. Denise sits in her usual chair, silver gray hair pulled back in that low, neat bun, thin gold wire rim reading glasses perched on her nose, the worn brown leather-bound book resting in her lap the way it always does. She watches Jaylen work through a calculus problem at the other end of the table, his long frame folded into the wooden chair, pencil moving in careful strokes. She doesn't ask about practice. She doesn't ask about Brennan. She knows what's coming, and she's patient. Patience runs in this family like a river runs through limestone. Quiet, relentless, carving the shape of what's to come, whether anyone sees it happening or not. Denise has waited her whole life for the world to recognize what she's always known about her grandson. A few more days is nothing. The small dark freckle above her right eyebrow catches the kitchen light as she turns a page. She doesn't say a word. She doesn't have to. Game day Tuesday arrives the way it always does in Jaylen's world, without fanfare. He sits on the edge of his bed in the small room at the end of the hall, laces up the white Nikes, left shoe first, the scuffed toe a badge of every court he's ever played on, pulls the maroon and gold jersey over his head, number 5 settling against his lean torso, reaches for the thin gold chain on the nightstand and tucks it inside the collar, his signature object, the one thing he never removes. His fingers brush the faint birthmark on the left side of his neck, just below his ear, and he stands, 6'3" of quiet, coiled readiness. Denise drives him to the gym in the 12-year-old Buick. The engine rattles at every stoplight. The heater wheezes. Neither of them speaks. When they arrive, Denise parks in the gravel lot and walks in with her book pressed against her chest, her simple black flat shoes clicking softly on the gymnasium floor. She takes her seat, 3rd row, settles the leather-bound book in her lap, folds her hands, and waits. Straight-backed, still, dignified and contained, the way she has always been, the way she will always be. The bleachers fill slowly. Parents, students, a few locals with nothing better to do on a Tuesday night. Nobody looks at the top row. Tuesday night, Ridgemont Gymnasium, buzzing fluorescent lights. The bleachers are half full. In the top row, a man in a navy polo with a Duke lanyard and a manila folder takes his seat. Nobody notices him. Yet. The game starts and Brennan has Jaylen on the bench for the opening tip. The message is clear before a single whistle blows. 5 starters walk to center court. Jaylen Sullivan is not one of them. He's sitting at the far end of the bench in his maroon and gold number 5 jersey, hands resting on his knees, back straight, that thin gold chain tucked inside his collar catching the fluorescent light every time he breathes. The kid who led every scrimmage stat sheet. The kid who made the highlight reel in practice 3 days running. Benched. Opening tip. Not even a word of explanation. Brennan stands at the sideline, chest forward, chin up, arms crossed over that maroon Ridgemont polo, silver whistle resting against his sternum like a medal he awarded himself. He doesn't look at Jaylen, doesn't acknowledge him. That's the point. You don't explain things to people you consider beneath you. And look, if you know basketball, you know what an opening lineup says. It says who the coach trusts. It says who the coach believes in. It says who matters. Brennan looked at his best player and said, "You don't matter." First quarter plays out exactly how you'd expect. Ridgemont's offense is sluggish, no ball movement, possessions dying on the wing. The point guard Brennan started instead of running the sets through Jaylen is dribbling into traffic, turning it over, forcing contested threes that clang off iron. 4 minutes in, Ridgemont is down 9. The bleachers are restless, parents shifting in their seats. The opposing bench is loose, laughing. Brennan's jaw tightens. His pale blue eyes sweep the bench. He has no choice, and he hates it. "Sullivan, get in." 2 words, no encouragement, no play call, just a command, like he's sending a dog to fetch. Jaylen stands, 6'3", lean, long-armed, moving with that patient economy like he's conserving every ounce of energy for exactly the right moment. He checks in at the scorer's table, steps onto the hardwood, and the entire rhythm of the game changes. First possession, Jaylen brings the ball up, reads the floor like he's reading a sentence. Subject, verb, object, period. He sees the weak side defender cheating toward the paint, threads a bounce pass through traffic to the corner. Bucket, assist, 12 seconds. Next possession, pick and roll at the elbow. Jaylen waves off the screen, drives baseline, draws 2 defenders, kicks it to the open man at the top of the key. Swish. Second assist. 90 seconds on the court and the deficit is 5. Brennan pulls him anyway. No reason given, no matchup explanation, just a bark from the sideline and a pointed finger at the bench. The assistant coach, a younger guy with a clipboard who's been quiet all night, furrows his brow, looks at Brennan, opens his mouth, closes it. Says nothing. Second quarter, Ridgemont bleeds. Without Jaylen, the offense reverts to isolation ball, contested shots, empty possessions. The lead balloons, 12 points down now. The gym is getting uncomfortable. You can hear individual voices in the crowd. Someone's father, 3 rows up, says what everyone is thinking. "Put 5 back in." Brennan hears it. His neck goes red above the maroon collar. Those broken capillaries on his left cheek flush darker. He grips the whistle lanyard. He waits. He lets the team drown for another 2 minutes because his ego won't let a man in the bleachers coach his team. Then he caves. Again. "Sullivan." Jaylen stands. Same posture, same still hands, same deliberate walk to the scorer's table. No attitude, no eye roll. That birthmark on the left side of his neck just below his ear, visible under the gymnasium lights as he turns his head to check in. He steps onto the court and goes to work. What happens next is 4 minutes of basketball that makes the entire gym forget everything else. Jaylen orchestrates a 10-0 run, a no-look pass on the fast break that hits a cutter in stride for a layup, a mid-range pull-up jumper from the free throw line, pure, clean, the net barely moving. A charge drawn on the opposing team's best player, Jaylen's feet set, chest absorbing the contact, sliding backward but staying upright, the ref's whistle confirming what everyone already knew. Another assist off a drive and dish, another bucket off a curl screen where Jaylen rises, releases, and the ball arcs through the light like it knows where it's going. The gym is buzzing now. Real buzzing. The kind where strangers turn to each other and nod. The kind where phones come out. Up in the top row, Marcus Elliott, navy polo, Duke lanyard, manila folder resting on his knee, leans forward in his seat. His dark brown eyes narrow. That small mole just below his left eye catches shadow as he tilts his head, studying. Not just the talent, the composure. The way Jaylen moves without wasted motion, reads without hesitation, leads without shouting. Brennan pulls him again. "Sullivan, out!" The assistant coach actually turns this time. "Coach, he's got 14 points and 6 assists in under 8 minutes." "I said out. Defensive effort. He's gambling on every passing lane." He wasn't. Everyone in the gym knows he wasn't. Jaylen hadn't gambled on a single play. His defensive positioning was textbook, feet active, hands disciplined, staying in front of his man. The criticism doesn't exist. It's invented. Manufactured from nothing because Brennan needs a reason, and the truth, that he simply doesn't want this kid to shine, isn't something he can say out loud. Parents murmur. The assistant looks at the floor. This is personal. Everyone can feel it now. Then comes the moment, the one this whole story has been building toward. Brennan storms down the sideline, chest forward, chin jutting, that silver whistle swinging. He stops in front of Jaylen and delivers it. Full volume, full venom, right there in front of 300 people. "You're dragging this team down looking like you're running through mud. I don't care what your mama promised you. You don't have the speed, you don't have the instinct, and you're wasting my court time." Then he turns to the assistant coach, doesn't even lower his voice, wants Jaylen to hear it, wants the bench to hear it, wants the front row to hear it. "I should have cut him in tryouts. Kid's got no business on a varsity floor." That's a grown man, a 50-something-year-old man with a whistle and a title, standing over a 19-year-old and telling him he's nothing. In public, on purpose. Jaylen sits at the end of the bench, jaw tight, deep brown eyes wet but refusing to blink. His hands rest on his knees, still, the way they always are. That thin gold chain presses against his collarbone under the jersey. He doesn't respond, doesn't flinch, doesn't give Brennan the satisfaction. Up in the bleachers, Denise Sullivan grips the worn brown leather-bound book in her lap with both hands. Her silver-gray hair is pulled back in that low, neat bun. Behind the thin, gold wire-rim glasses, her warm brown eyes are steady, but her knuckles have gone pale against the leather. The gym is silent, and from the top row, Marcus Elliott stands up, tucks the manila folder under his arm, and starts walking down the steps. Marcus Elliott's shoes hit the gymnasium floor. He walks past the bleachers, past the parents, past the scorer's table, directly toward Coach Ray Brennan. The manila folder is in his hand. Every step is measured, unhurried. The Duke University lanyard with its credential badge swings gently from his belt loop, catching the overhead fluorescence. His navy blue polo is crisp, the small embroidered crest on his chest visible even from the cheap seats. The manila folder stays tucked under his left arm until he reaches the edge of the court, and then he pulls it forward, holds it in both hands like a man presenting evidence, because that's exactly what he's about to do. Brennan doesn't even look up at first. He's still barking at the assistant coach about substitution rotations, his ruddy face flushed, the silver whistle on its maroon lanyard bouncing against his chest-forward posture. Arms crossed, chin up, king of his little painted rectangle. Elliott stops 3 feet from him, calm, upright, hands relaxed around the folder. "Coach Brennan, if I could have a moment." Brennan finally glances over, sees a man he doesn't recognize, sizes him up in half a second the way men like Brennan always do, decides he's not important. "We're in the middle of a game, buddy." Buddy. There it is. That dismissal wrapped in fake friendliness, the same tone he uses on every person he considers beneath him, which is basically everyone who isn't holding a mirror. Elliott doesn't flinch, doesn't raise his voice. He opens the manila folder, holds it so Brennan can see the Duke letterhead, the scholarship agreement, the scouting reports, 3 months of evaluation notes in neat columns. "Coach Brennan, my name is Marcus Elliott. I'm the Assistant Director of Player Personnel at Duke University." Brennan's arms uncross, slowly. "The young man you just benched signed a full Division I scholarship with us 3 weeks ago." The whistle stops bouncing. He's the highest-rated point guard prospect in the state of Georgia. And the gymnasium goes so quiet, you can hear the HVAC system cycling through the ceiling vents. You can hear the squeak of a sneaker on the bench where Jaylen Sullivan sits, his lean 6'3" frame still, his deep brown eyes locked forward, the thin gold chain tucked inside his maroon and gold number 5 jersey, catching no light at all because he isn't moving. The faint birthmark below his left ear, the small cluster of freckles across the bridge of his nose, perfectly still, waiting, the way he always waits, with patience that a man like Brennan could never understand, because patience requires the kind of strength Brennan has never once had to develop. Brennan's mouth opens. Nothing comes out. Not a word, not a stammer, not a single syllable from the loudest man in every room he's ever walked into. His pale blue eyes under those heavy brows go wide, then narrow, then wide again. The broken capillaries on his left cheek seem to darken. His thick neck flushes from the collar of that maroon Ridgemont polo up to his receding sandy gray hairline. Every parent in those bleachers is processing, every player on that bench. The 2 reporters from the local paper with their phones already recording. Denise Sullivan, up in the stands, her silver-gray hair pulled back in its low, neat bun, her thin, gold, wire-rim reading glasses reflecting the scoreboard light, the worn brown leather-bound book resting in her lap. Her hands are folded. Her posture is straight-backed. She doesn't smile. She doesn't need to. The moment breathes. Let it breathe. Then, Marcus Elliott closes the folder, tucks it back under his left arm, and delivers the rest. I came tonight to watch him play. Instead, I watched you humiliate him in front of his family and his community. His voice is level, almost conversational. The small mole just below his left eye doesn't move because his face doesn't move. I have it all on video. Duke's compliance office and the Georgia High School Athletic Association will both receive my full report by morning. Brennan finds his voice. It's smaller than anyone in that gym has ever heard it. I was developing toughness. That's what I do. I push kids to be. You weren't developing anything. One sentence, clean as a scalpel. You were punishing a kid for not playing the game the way you wish you could have. And that lands like a brick through a window, because it's the truth Brennan has been running from for 19 years. Every screamed insult, every yanked jersey, every time he told a player he didn't have the DNA. It was never about them. It was about a stocky 5'10" man with thin lips and a receding hairline who peaked in a JV locker room in 1987 and spent the rest of his life taking it out on teenagers who were better than he ever was. Elliott turns, walks back past the scorer's table, past the bleachers, past the parents who are already pulling out their phones. His clean white leather sneakers don't squeak. His gait is measured. He doesn't look back. Within 72 hours, that manila folder detonates. Elliott's report hits the Georgia High School Athletic Association on a Tuesday morning. By Tuesday afternoon, the compliance office at Duke has flagged the video to their legal team. By Wednesday, 3 other black players and their families come forward. Discriminatory benching patterns going back years. Racial comments during practice. You people run fast, but you don't think fast, said with a laugh like it was coaching wisdom. And the incident with the black freshman 2 seasons back. The one Brennan told in front of the entire team that he didn't have the DNA for this level. The freshman transferred. Nobody asked why. Now they know. The school board suspends Brennan on Thursday. Local news picks it up Thursday night. By Friday morning, it's regional. A stocky man in a maroon polo with his arms crossed and his chin up, reduced to a pixelated photo next to a headline he can't outrun. His lawyer advises him to cooperate. Brennan doesn't cooperate. Brennan doesn't do anything gracefully. But he does resign. Before the hearing. Before they can drag him into a room full of people he spent 2 decades bullying and make him answer for every single one of them. No severance, no farewell, no ceremony. 19 years reduced to a single paragraph on the school district's website. The gym where he screamed is quiet now. The assistant coach takes over Ridgemont's program, and for the first time in his high school career, Jaylen Sullivan plays without a leash. No more getting yanked after 2 possessions. No more getting benched for playing too slow. No more watching from a folding chair while lesser players burned clock and bricked threes. The assistant coach, a quiet guy named Davis who'd been biting his tongue for years, does something radical, something Brennan never once considered in 19 years of screaming and whistleblowing. He trusts his best player. And look, I need you to understand what happens next because it's not dramatic the way people expect. There's no movie montage, no swelling soundtrack. What happens is patient. What happens is deliberate. What happens looks like Jaylen Sullivan, 6'3", lean and long-armed in that maroon and gold number 5 jersey, walking the ball up the court with his hands still and his deep brown eyes reading every single body on the floor. He doesn't rush. He waits. He finds the angle nobody else sees, threads the pass, relocates, sets the screen, and when the defense collapses on the wrong man, he's already where he needs to be. That thin gold chain tucked inside his jersey collar catches the gym light when he moves, and he moves like he's got all the time in the world. The team transforms, not overnight, over weeks. They start trusting the pace. They stop forcing. They share the ball because Jaylen shares the ball. And suddenly, Ridgemont is winning games by 12, by 15, by 22. The same roster, the same gym, the same kids Brennan called undisciplined. The only thing that changed was the man with the whistle. Let that sit for a second. The regional championship run starts in February. Ridgemont hasn't been here in a decade. A full decade of first-round exits and losing seasons, and Brennan screaming about effort while his best player rotted on the bench. Now they're winning. Now they're advancing. And they're doing it with the exact style Brennan called sleepwalking. The irony is so thick you could choke on it. Every fast break Jaylen orchestrates, every backdoor cut he delivers on a silver platter, every possession where the shot clock still has 9 seconds left when the ball drops through the net. That's the game Brennan tried to beat out of him. That's the basketball a grown man with broken capillaries on his cheek and a whistle around his neck called soft, called passive, called not what we do here. Turns out it's exactly what they should have been doing the whole time. The final home game of the season, regional championship. Gym is packed wall to wall, standing room only, people lined up in the hallway trying to see through the door. And in the third row, same seat she always sat in, Denise Sullivan. Petite, silver gray hair pulled back in that low, neat bun, thin gold wire rim reading glasses perched on her nose, lavender blouse buttoned to the collar, hands folded over the worn brown leather-bound book resting in her lap. She doesn't scream, doesn't wave a sign. She watches. The buzzer sounds. Ridgemont wins by 11. The team rushes the court. Kids are jumping on each other, chest bumping, hollering into the rafters. The crowd spills onto the hardwood, sneakers squeaking, air horns blasting, the whole gym shaking with noise. Jaylen doesn't rush. He walks off the court, walks through the chaos like it's a Sunday afternoon.